Hi there, folks. Here we are starting the Wave News Extra live stream and program for the Wave Now studio. And we, in our position, are glad to be indoors as we take a look across our network of SkyTrack cameras. Yeah, if you could make it out through this fog, close to freezing fog for us, the downtown skyline. No escaping that sight line, and surely you were feeling the effects if you were trying to make your way, out of the office or out of school to get home. That thundersnow, rare occurrence, but just this next band of winter weather to have added to our totals and reminding us winter very much is here and letting its presence being felt. Still appreciate your time joining us here on the live stream, whether that's on the Wave Now app, on your smart TV devices, or on our live stream, as we're always here to connect with you guys on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. And worth noting that the story, with the active weather going on, which is what brought on the storm tracking team, letting you know these were alert day, serious to consider conditions as you went about Louisville and southern Indiana. We are going to break down a little later in the show tonight some of those viewer videos of these fatter flakes of snow mixing with the rain, what that was looking like as surely a lot of you were trying to get those good videos from a safe place and a place where you could then pop back in and stay warm. But rest assured, there's more to discuss later tonight. In fact, starting next hour, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned going to be here in the Wave Now studio to walk you through a lot more of these images, break down what factors into what we see play out, why that still creates some of those hazards or risks as we're still, driving or just going about our day-to-day lives. So for the folks joining us now, appreciate you on YouTube. Nathan asking if we are going to get a wave weather now. To answer your question, yes, we will. We'll just start with the news part of it for you tonight, and then around the 9 o'clock hour, break that down. We're going to begin with probably our longest piece, our report to share with you. And this is an update to our troubleshooters investigation. But if you remember a story that our Mark Stevens had laid out not too long ago about eye doctors, Kentucky optometrists. Well, the state board is now promising to be more transparent. This is with a special meeting coming up on Thursday. This is in discussing now our reporting about licensing and really the waiver scandal that the troubleshooters uncovered. So the board currently investigating at least 21 optometrists in Kentucky who were granted waivers from their national tests, and the Attorney General's office, by the way, saying at least one of those waivers did not follow the law. Our Mark Stevens has been fighting with the board to release more of those records. He tells us the board filed an emergency rule New Year's Eve. This now requires those 21 optometrists and any others after them to take and pass the national exams. That's where the crux of this is, or some equivalent test so that they can be licensed again to practice next year. The board involved notifying the doctors, but they're withholding all the records that Mark has asked for to show who was notified. But now he'll walk you through what he received, which is an unredacted copy of that letter that first identified the 21 practitioners in question, and the response and the information he's been able to glean since then. So here's our troubleshooters update on optometry license practice in Kentucky.
21 optometrists spread across the Commonwealth, questioned by their own testing organization, NBEO, wondering how Kentucky licensed them. NBEO says these eye doctors did not pass one or more parts of the three-part national exam. Wave troubleshooters previously identified these three: Hannah Ellis, Tyler Fruth, and Mark Norden Jr. Kentucky's optometry board allowed all three to take an Oklahoma state exam in place of the national test to get their licenses. NBEO's former president, Michael Olson, says that didn't make sense.
I'm unaware of any literature citing a state board exam as equivalent to the national board exam, and certainly not better.
Ellis failed every single part of the national exam. Her dad, Joe Ellis, was on Kentucky's optometry board at the same time she applied with the Oklahoma test. He was also a trustee at her college, the University of Pikeville, where he helped set up Kentucky's only optometry school. In fact, 17 of the 21 optometrists on this NBEO list graduated from the optometry school there.
We have hired a number of new faculty there. All but one of them is residency trained. The other one is actually our valedictorian and then was in practice for a few years before coming back to us. So really highly qualified folks.
Dean Renee Reeder says the school has made major changes since its first graduating class, increasing GPA requirements for students to get in and stay, and adding teachers. It had to. In August 2024, the school's accreditors lowered the school's status to accredited with conditions, saying the program had major weaknesses. The school's accreditation was fully restored in January 2025 when the accreditors changed how it calculated pass rates.
They were doing a one-year snapshot.
Got it. Okay.
And we missed it by 2 students.
Okay. So very small,
Very small.
but obviously a big deal. You don't want to be.
We don't want anybody.
Program with any conditions.
Right, and we don't want our students to not be successful.
The Kentucky College of Optometry also changed its graduation requirements in 2021, dropping a rule that students must pass the first part of the national exam to get their degree. It's in line with nearly every other optometry school in the U.S., but the decision directly benefited Ellis, Fruth, and Norden.
We had a representative of some students say, hey, you're preventing our students from getting gainful employment, because at the time there were other states that offered an alternative exam to the national board.
Kentucky's optometry board has loosened its licensing standards for years. It waived multiple parts of the national test. Then this summer, it allowed new grads to substitute a Canadian exam in place of the first part of the U.S. test to get licensed. Joe Ellis told lawmakers it was all about the students.
We're concerned about the welfare of students attempting to go to optometry school. Again, if they see the testing is insurmountable, they may not choose this profession down the road here.
Reeder says the school did not lobby for the change or the multiple waivers the board put in place, dropping test requirements. She says they've tried to help graduates struggling to pass their board exams.
Because you'd like to believe if they got through the program that they have the capability.
For the ones already licensed through a waiver, they'll have to prove they can pass when their license renews in 2027.
Yeah, extensive work done by our troubleshooter team and Mark Stevens in particular. Now, the KOO, the Kentucky Optometrists, or KOA, excuse me, Optometrists Association, says the state board should reverse itself on accepting this Canadian substitute test, which has been part of the reporting for what counted as that equivalent to then ultimately be licensed for these practitioners. Now, we at the troubleshooters team has also asked for additional letters that NBEO sent to Kentucky about raising questions about even more optometrists and their records, as it were. The board refused to release those letters, and so the troubleshooters are now appealing to the Attorney General's office for those disclosures. More news to share with you tonight. This is an update since we've now learned the name of the man who was shot and killed at a club in Shively. The Jefferson County coroner talking and saying that this was 26-year-old Rodney Parker, who died at Club 7 on South 7th Street Road. Parker was one of 2 men who was shot here. The other man, police believe, is in his 30s. He was taken to the hospital. He should survive. They didn't disclose much more identifying information beyond that. They also haven't arrested anyone just yet, and anyone who has information that could help police with the shooting should give Shively police a call. In this first block, which we're going to wrap up this next update, this report from our Logan Perone, and then take you all to break to give ourselves time to, separate all the different stories we want to share with you guys. But this is the context. If you remember, over this last year, we know several people have been not just convicted, but sentenced over their roles in what happened in that Harvest Homecoming shooting, where you remember, the worst of the outcomes. 18-year-old Bryce Gerlach was shot and killed. 2 other innocent bystanders were hurt. Our Logan Perone in New Albany was there for this, still the first parts of this jury trial. And it is the first jury trial related to the shooting to begin. And here is our Logan's update from where things stand, which, by the way, the jury still has yet to be fully seated for the proper trial to start.
For the first time.
Don't know what happened there. Let's see if we can reinitiate that. Sorry, folks. You're interested sometimes how the technology will work. So let's try playing that one again.
For the first time since gunshots upended Harvest Homecoming in October 2024, a man accused of killing 18-year-old Bryce Gerlach will face a jury trial. Isaiah Page is currently facing 6 charges, including murder. Judge Carrie Stiller, while reading the charges to some of the 200 potential jurors, said Page is alleged to have knowingly killed Gerlach during the shooting. The now 19-year-old was one of 5 people arrested in the weeks and months that followed.
Witnesses alleged they saw Isaiah Page draw a firearm from a backpack and begin firing from the fountain area down toward the right area.
Court records show prosecutors offered Page a plea deal. Page rejected that deal early this year. Prosecutor Chris Lane declined to discuss what the deal entailed. 12 people in total have been sentenced in connection to the shooting.
We as a family believe that Joshua Smith should have received no less than what Bryce received, which would have been life in prison.
4 other defendants in this case have taken plea deals, and those individuals could be called to testify during Page's trial.
And our Logan Perone learning from Judge Stiller, who will preside over the case, that judge denied Wave News' request to have a camera inside of the courtroom for the trial to capture those video images. Also today, there were family members of Isaiah Page in an auxiliary courtroom. They declined to comment on today's process for the jury selection, but they say they are hoping for a fair trial. All right, folks, and always great to have commentary and you chiming in with the stories we're breaking down, and perhaps a question acknowledged from at Kentucky KY there. And it is a question then worth asking what the standard and the gauge is for these tests for practice, and it is a medical practice, and so it would be interesting to follow up with the troubleshooters to see, you know, how this approval beyond schooling compares to perhaps other medical specialties. Could be something for the troubleshooters to further dive into for sure. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and be right back with much more of Wave News Extra after these messages. Welcome back into Wave News Extra, everybody. Yeah, a familiar sight if you visit downtown, or you know where this sits in the skyline. But it's been empty for some time. The empty Humana Tower now scheduled for a pretty expensive makeover, $600 to $700 million to turn this former office space into a luxury hotel. City leaders expect this project is also going to have a transformative effect on downtown business. It could all start in earnest in about 3 to 4 years. We know Humana moved its employees out of this pretty dominant landmark in the skyline, and it's left a void since. You saw a brand there for folks called the Poe companies. Well, they're the developers of the project who say they want to create a 1,000-room hotel with construction beginning next year. It would actually be Louisville's second largest hotel, and then once complete, it would then go a long way, the developers say, to help Louisville fill a shortage of hotel space, as they put it.
They're going to be booking events that wouldn't come to Louisville but for this project. It's going to also help the Kentucky International Convention Center downtown, the fairgrounds by the airport. It's going to help those centers bring new events to here where they wouldn't come without a 1,000-room hotel.
And today's announcement comes just days after another developer revealed their plans to convert the empty Fifth Third Bank Tower downtown into a 400-room JW Marriott. But the funding doesn't stop there for downtown, and efforts to redevelop significant chunks of it. We also know millions of dollars of government funding have now been secured to upgrade the Belvedere. This is coming from Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell's office, saying that he had secured $7 million for what they described as their revitalization. It's a 7-acre plot you're familiar with out on the riverfront between 4th and 6th Streets, but it's been around since the 1970s. I'm sure lots of you who will chime in will know kind of how things have changed, because that's how time works. But it does need a lot of infrastructure repairs. City leaders have been hosting design meetings, which I've reported on some of those as well, where architects have been discussing ways that they want to transform the waterfront property by making it blend in better with the surrounding landscape. Talking ahead to when Derby will come into town, the Derby Museum announced the grand prize winner of their yearly Horsing Around with Art competition. This is Savannah Webb, a senior at Ballard High School, who won this year's contest. She was surprised this morning receiving her dozen roses, and some camera crews got to talk to the young artist. And she tells us that while she's never been personally to the Derby, she did talk about what inspired her to draw this particular piece.
It's just bits and pieces of what I've experienced from other people, and I feel like that emphasizes what it is to be Kentucky, just like the bits and pieces that everyone experienced, and you kind of mix it all together.
Certainly a work of art that stands out. Webb is going to have the artwork in the museum for a year and receive a Spring Race Day Experience prize package that is sponsored by Churchill Downs. Now, the hope is on a day like Derby, you're not dealing with this pretty serious winter weather. Yes, it is in spring, but there are, the chances that you could get some kind of precipitation. What you're hearing there in the sky was the thundersnow that was falling a little earlier this afternoon. We had crews scattered around Wave Country. This is actually while our Logan Perrone was getting ready for his report in New Albany, just seeing these flakes falling down fast from the sky, and you hear that distance and hum in the background, not planes necessarily. That's just the thundersnow moving in. I want to take this time to show you folks some other viewer clips that were sent into us. Always appreciate you interacting in this way. So, for example, folks like Nancy Deucer in Hanover. Nancy, seeing these fat thunder snowflakes, adding whatever that amount was going to be onto that pretty healthy blanket of snow for you folks out in Hanover. Now, what will it look like in Paoli? It's nice to have the background, the soundtrack of Quiet Outdoors, and just observing all that snowfall for Jason Hamilton. And so you folks in Paoli, that's leaving that little dusting on the surfaces and on the streets. The question then is, as Kevin will break down later tonight, those refreezing potentials and, what the ground temperatures for all these roads are going to be. Let's head over now to Carrollton. Picture sent in from Lori Noble. Probably she did a lot of work dusting off and sweeping this deck back when we had the major snowstorm, if you can believe it, over now a week ago. It feels like it's over a week ago, but no signs of perhaps stopping, and just that white landscape not going anywhere for any time soon, because we're still going to be talking about these close to freezing temperatures through the course of this week. But rest assured, Kevin and the storm tracking team letting us know we are looking forward to some 50s sooner rather than later. The timing of that, make sure to join us around 9 o'clock. And particular frustration for a lot of JCPS parents as we've been getting these calls, these messages, these emails, enough to get to the ear of Louisville Metro Mayor Craig Greenberg, saying that the government is working with JCPS to try to clear out neighborhood roads and even bus stops so that students can make sure that all of their journey to school and back is safe. Today, Wave News reporter Fernanda Garcia Franciscini talked to a mom who welcomes this partnership just in time because she's worried about her own children's safety in what she captured on video here with what happened to one of her kids' school buses.
Like, honestly, I was at work and my heart just dropped into my stomach.
So imagine being at work and getting a call from one of your kids saying their school bus slid off the road and got stuck in the snow and ice. That's what happened to Erica Smallwood Tuesday morning. She shared with us this video of the bus her children were riding. This happened on Homestead Drive and Hatcher Avenue in Louisville's South End.
They were using the chain to try to get the bus unstuck and they couldn't get it unstuck. You know, I just asked her, send me your location on your phone and I'm coming to get you.
As the metro prepares for the possibility of more snow, some neighborhood roads are still covered in ice from the last winter storm. And with all roads on the metro's snow route cleared off, Mayor Craig Greenberg says the snow team is working to help out JCPS.
Over the weekend, Dr. Yearwood and I were on the phone every day, multiple times a day. There were hot spots that were identified to work to get JCPS opened yesterday that we addressed.
Mayor Greenberg says they cleaned other roads and bus stops Monday after complaints as students went back to school. But after Tuesday morning's incident, Erica says she's second-guessing whether letting her kids get on the bus stop right now is the safest choice.
I am mad because some of these side roads are still not safe for kids, or let alone a bus full of kids to trying to go up.
All right, thanks to Fernando for that report. Now, Superintendent Dr. Yearwood says there is no priority list when it comes to cleaning specific side roads or specific bus stops. That's not listed, as he put it somewhere. And he talked about how it's complicated work and how many roads there are that they would have to look at and make the consideration to see what needs to be cleared first and foremost. But he did also talking to Fernando saying this partnership with JCPS and the Metro will continue to address that as these issues are brought up. All right, we're going to take another beat to go over some messages, reset for this last batch of stories we've got for you here on the live stream for Wave News Extra. So appreciate your time, folks, whether that's on Smart TV, Wave Now, way to connect with us or on the live stream. We're going to take this quick pause, as I said. Be right back. Inching closer to 8:29. Appreciate you staying with us here for this Wave News Extra live stream, folks. We're going to get to some more stories that just want to break down with you, things that have popped up on our radar, and just letting you know that these are things being investigated or that we've got being updated to our website, added to our newscast, which, by the way, we do work into the night and prepare for Wave News at 11 to get you those stories on top of whether that breaking news does happen, to get it to you as soon as possible in that manner. We all know now, in one case I want to bring up here, police say they arrested a woman who they say stabbed her boyfriend in an argument in the Portland neighborhood. LMPD say this happened just before 10 last night on North 32nd Street, where police say that's where they found this guy who'd been stabbed. He was taken to the hospital. He should be okay. But in the aftermath, police arrested Natasha Manris, who's now charged with assault and terroristic threatening. Detectives say they're trying to figure out and work to learn what led up to the confrontation. In another case, two men accused of using a gun to steal cartons of cigarettes, and they did this allegedly from two gas stations. Police say Daryl Webster and another man went into a Circle K on Dixie Highway last month, took out a gun, told a worker to back up, and then took more than $1,000 worth of Marlboro cigarettes. Then days later, police telling us that Webster and the other suspect are accused of going to the Speedway on Dixie Highway, then taking cartons of Newports after getting in a fight with an employee at that particular fast convenience store. Webster, in this case, charged with 2 counts of robbery. And locally, Louisville Customs and Border Protection officers say they discovered drugs hidden inside this Ethernet cable spool. So again, if you're familiar, likely, whatever familiarity you have with connecting to the internet or, digital devices, where yes, with your Ethernet cable, you usually want to connect your computers, your routers, your gaming consoles to high-speed internet. In this case, however, agents say it was used to likely try and transport drugs. This was in late January when officers say they and their canine team found 7 pounds of ketamine, a drug you would normally prescribe to someone, a provider would, for pain relief or sedation. But this was apparently concealed in the cable spool. An agency release says that this entire spool was heading to Belgium. The amount of the material was worth $50,000. In the story that has captured a lot of attention and just, the head-scratching questions of what happened out in southern Arizona, this is about trying to find today anchor Savannah Guthrie's missing mother and what could have happened for her to have been targeted, the mom in this case. Police believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her home in the Tucson metro over the weekend. Savannah's role as co-host of the Today Show has, of course, put this story perhaps in under a greater microscope for making the national headlines. But so far, investigators have not shared much about why they don't believe Guthrie left her home voluntarily. So the disclosure of information there has been a little limited and selective. But detectives say they are analyzing DNA they found, not just at the scene, but also on Guthrie's cell phone. And local sheriff's deputies and their partners are asking for anyone's help in trying to find 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, pointing out that she has to take this medication, supposedly that she needs to stay alive. And so time and access to that medication would be of critical importance. Coming back to the Louisville Metro and the context of now the Kentucky Senate passing a bill that's going to go to the House, and it could shift the power dynamics in JCPS if it's ultimately passed. So Senate Bill 1, we've talked about in our reporting, it wants to redefine the roles of specific district boards of education and then the superintendent's role in certain school districts. So the bill, again, a quick recap, would make it so that superintendents of districts as big as JCPS would focus on the day-to-day operations, personnel, and managing administration, while the board would look at long-term strategies. Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood testifying in a committee hearing very recently, it was just last week, that he was against the bill. And today, after the Senate passed the bill, Yearwood doubled down on his opinion.
Like I said, it's about giving a superintendent more authority, more power. And, for me, as I testified, that's not something that I want, because I'm working with a great board. We're rowing in the same direction. And, great things are going to happen for our school district. Improvements are going to be there. We are working through our budget and, we're going to improve. We just need to be giving a little bit more time. I've been here for about 6 months now and really have been tackling these problems for about 4 months. But again, we're rowing in the same direction. So again, it's not a matter of authority. It's a matter of having systems in place. My board members know.
And a reminder again, Senate Bill 1 now moving to the House for further consideration and what might be an ultimate vote, yes or no, to pass Senate Bill 1. And our last story tonight, it's going to be our Dawn G leaving us her latest update, an episode in her Make Ends Meet series. And there's been a new proposal floated in, recorded interviews and press conferences. And this is back in the White House in Washington, D.C. And it centers around the conversation of President Donald Trump's proposal to cap credit card interest at 10%. So perhaps then the question, if you distill it, is what does that mean for the average consumer if Congress agrees that they should look into a cap like that? So Dawn had a chance to talk to a private credit expert and financial or a leader in financial industry discussions and think tanks. In the interview, you're going to hear Dawn talk about this conversation or the point that it depends on what side of the coin you're going to fall on and depending on your financial situation. So here is Dawn's report on what this proposal might mean.
That mid to lower tier of consumer, they're the ones that are going to suffer from this.
Dean Lolkin is the co-founder and co-CEO of Cardiff, a one-stop shop for same-day business capital and equipment financing. Lolkin has studied President Trump's proposal for a year-long 10% interest rate cap on credit cards, and Lolkin believes many Americans will be financially hurt if it goes through.
Folks that are already impacted by the enormous disparity and wealth inequality that we're seeing in our country the last 3, 4, 5 years since COVID, as well as inflation. That consumer is only going to be made even worse off by this 10% interest rate cap.
Some in the banking industry have also criticized the proposal. Americans who are already struggling with daily bills could face an even tighter financial squeeze.
If somehow this gets to Congress or this gets negotiated, those people will be locked out of borrowing using credit cards.
The balance on your card will be forced to earn interest for the bank at 10% for the next 12 months, but the card holder would not be allowed any additional funds.
You won't be able to use that card any longer.
Lolkin says the proposal does have supporters. According to LendingTree, the average credit card interest rate is nearly 24%.
And these folks don't have the best credit scores. What else? They don't pay on time. A lot of them default. And so they are that high-risk consumer that simply does not deserve a 10% interest rate.
That high-risk consumer may be pushed to more expensive predatory financial services and loans with a 10% cap and a cutoff card.
We're failing to talk about personal responsibility, right? And personal responsibility rests on all of us as consumers.
Low FICO score consumers, shoppers with a credit score typically between 300 to 579, start rebuilding your credit now. Review your credit report. Keep credit utilization low. That's the percentage of credit you are using and the amount of credit you have available. Pay all your bills on time and make a budget.
If I'm a lower FICO score consumer, if I'm someone that's considered subprime, that is a warning to me that I need to make sure that I'm not over leveraging myself, that I don't go and shop for something online that I can't afford.
And the last thing, Dawn and the Make Ends Meet, episode team behind this want to let you know is, she stressed how important it is to make a budget and stick to it. She will remind you, as will a lot of financial experts, in the same time. Do your best to raise your credit score. Just, be consistent about it. Should this cap then become law, then raising your credit score ultimately would be more beneficial than before. And also the reminder here to pay off any balances that you can, or at least begin to work on those debts. If you're part of a credit card rewards program, some of those programs may then change. So you'd want to take advantage of your points as soon as possible. And you can read much more that Dawn has laid out in her Make Ends Meet series on wave3.com, which, as I always remind you again, that one-stop shop, or, one-stop place to go, probably a better way to describe that, but just to find all the information that we update as soon as we get it. It's here at your fingertips to star, share, click, read through in more depth. That's how you're also going to find all our, troubleshooters investigations and wave originals. You can see there. This is also where the storm tracking team sends these updates for alert days, when they are coming, how long they're going to last, the implications and consequences as we now, kind of wrap up our Tuesday and ask what's ahead on this first full week of February. All key questions, as we're going to take one last look here in the live stream from our SkyTrack downtown Louisville camera. The fog certainly not going away. You can even see those spinning fog lights there on the skyscrapers, or the towers over there, letting you know that there is something out there beyond the background at a certain distance. So just be safe out there, folks, in the fog, driving around if you still needed to go somewhere. Appreciate your time, whether that's connecting with us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch. And let's see where I might have noticed where I've got. Oh, this is an interesting choice. Sometimes activating different live streams. So we've got the double X Sports and Twitch. Sorry, folks, did not include you on tonight's live stream. I appreciate the interactions, by the way, with folks like Nathan and Kentucky KY. And for those of you who also join us on the Wave Now app on your Apple, Fire, your Roku devices, this is how we want to make sure we have this time to break down the stories that matter to you in a different format. And just another way to spend some time and discussing these pretty key, important stories. Well, folks, in around 20 minutes, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned going to pop in to walk you through the forecast on a Wave Weather Now stream. Until then, we'll see you back here perhaps tomorrow night. We'll let you know what that plan might be throughout the week. Just, we got some schedules to adjust here in the newsroom. But nonetheless, I'm Jose Sosaya, appreciating your time as always. We'll see you back here soon.